Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, Two Blokes Chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
Rob, it's happened again.
It's happened again, yes. We've just coincidentally, we play a song at 10 o'clock and blow me down if we haven't got the man who sang it or the woman who sang it straight afterwards. And we do have Brian Cadd producing what I think is his finest bit of work, Ginger Man. I just love that song. Brian, good morning and welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show.
Oh, thank you for having me. It is rather a miracle, though, isn't it? I mean, that's extraordinary.
Yeah. And I tell you what, next week when we play Elvis coming out at 10 o'clock, you want to make sure you're listening, because if he pops up, that's going to be something amazing.
Listen, I'm coming to the station.
You officially cross a very important line this morning, Brian. The second visit to the show makes you an official friend of the Blokes. We're very thrilled to have you.
Oh, good. It's wonderful to be here. Or as Keith Richard would say, anywhere.
Yeah. Now, Brian, the last time we spoke to you, you were in a place called Gympie and you were desperately trying to write a song. Did you find that word to rhyme with Gympie?
No, there is no word.
Oh, we came up with Skimpy, and you said if you put that into a song, we'd get songwriting credits.
That's why I didn't use it.
Oh, dear me.
Everyone. Yeah.
No, so you were out. You were looking over the plains of Gympie. You're in a very good mood and in good songwriting mood, but that had you somewhat stumped. But I'm sure you got around the problem some other way.
Yeah, I did. It was yes, I did. I'm glad you remembered that.
No, it was very easy to remember. This time, though, you're coming to our town of Geelong, which we're very excited about. I remember seeing you and Russell Morris do a show together at the Geelong Deakin Waterfront campus a long time ago, and still performing. And I imagine because people are still buying tickets, you're still performing at a high level. Is it ever got boring getting out there and playing piano and singing songs?
No. It's like a lifeblood. It's what I do, and truthfully, if I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. It'd be too hard. It's sort of the the impetus of being with an audience and being, at one with a few hundred people or 1,000 people or whatever it is in a room and enjoying the experience together is something you can't fake that, and you can't dream it up. It just is. And once that stops, thank you, just stop. I would stop, but I can't see any reason to stop. I can't play golf. I've got no reason to retire. We're all gonna keep going. We talk about this all the time. Maybe this year we'll cut down, and then the agency rings and says, "Oh, you want to do a run up in da da da?" And say, "Oh yes, no, good, fine." Well, off you go again.
And respectfully, Brian, you're older today than you ever have been before, and therefore, things are, I'm assuming if you're anything like me, bits of you are starting to hurt when you get up in the morning. But I'm looking at your a plan for the week, and I looked at my plan for next week and thought, gee, I've got a busy week. Bird's Basement in Melbourne tonight, the Archies Creek Hotel at Archies Creek, surprisingly, Sunday afternoon. You're in town here on Monday night. You've then got Ballarat Tuesday night, Bendigo Wednesday night, Belgrave Friday night. I don't know what you're doing Thursday. Talk about dropping the ball. St Kilda, Memo Music Hall, St Kilda next Saturday. Glen Maggie Hall on the Sunday, and then you take a break. That's a fairly busy week.
Yeah, it is. That's why I sound like this. I don't sound like this at night time. In the morning it takes me a bit to get going. To be honest, though, you don't normally do 5 in a row anymore. But it just so happened that, and I don't live here. I live up north, and so it's good fun to come down and do a bunch in a row, as like a little run. But also the ones that, like the one I'm doing in Geelong, they're fairly new. They're a kind of a new phenomenon. They sort of call themselves piano bars, and I don't know why, because everyone who plays here seems to be not a piano player. So they're a big rage at the moment, and they're starting to happen all around the place. And I like to think of it as a sort of almost like rock and roll cabaret. There used to be a great one in Melbourne called I can't think of it now.
Capers.
Capers, that's right. And that was a phenomenal place to play. And I'm assuming that these things are basically the same thing. I'm looking forward to it, really.
I have an album at home, I think, called Clean Skin, signed by you, in fact, that I think was recorded at Capers.
Yeah, that's right, it was. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
It stopped being a venue. I think Ross Ryan was meant to be playing there one Saturday night, and during the Saturday afternoon we had one of those absolute cloudbursts, and the place got flooded. So Ross didn't get to play, and they never opened again. They just basically closed the venue down after that.
Yeah, now it became a vodka bar or something.
Yeah, it's quite bizarre.
It's a shame because you used to be able to do like 2 weeks there, like a whole season. I love that sort of stuff, and I think most artists do. And I'm glad it's coming back. I'm glad you guys are bringing it back. It's wonderful.
Brian, just on Neil's quip about the stage of your life, but to play sport, you need to be fit and you need to practice and keep yourself ready. We're aware of the fact that to do what you do, and we've seen the energy that you fellas still put in on stage to all of the band, there's an element of looking after yourself and making sure the body and mind are in peak condition. Is that something that you need to work on, or are you just saying, well, I'm going to keep going until I can't do any more, and it just happens? How do you prepare for this, particularly a run like this?
Oh, it's not a training regime in the sense that you would go and do 1,000 press-ups. I can't do 1 press-up, and I'm. And you're right when you said before that bits of me are starting to be more difficult to make work. But I think what it really is an enormous kind of drive to be there upstage and do that. And it's not so physical. I mean, particularly in my case, I suppose if you're a guitar player that played lying on his back or something, it might be a bit more physical. But for like Russell Morris,
yeah,
he wishes. but it's not so much the physical thing, but it's really a very emotional and mental thing. And I think that's where, if you were starting to fail a bit there, that's where it become really hard. The mental capacity has to be up there, which is, thank God, still there.
Yeah, remembering words of songs. We have heard some stories of people who've sang a song 1,000 times. For some reason, the words just don't come when they're supposed to, and you've got a big list of songs to play. Have you ever got mixed up and started singing the wrong words to the wrong song?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I have, but not to the old one that I've been doing for 50 years. But when I bring out a new album, which I do periodically, and I put a couple of songs in the show, and that's a bit of a trick. Remember the right verse at the right time. But, I think, they're so ingrained now, it'd be pretty hard. Although, I can remember once coming from America to Australia, and I arrived early on a Saturday morning, or early on a morning, and I went straight to Channel 9 in Sydney, and I did the Ray Martin show, which was a very unwise thing to do. And during I did Arkansas Grass, which I've done a million times, and during the rehearsal, I could not get any words right. I didn't get any words right. I was so jet-lagged. So the girls in the chorus wrote all the words out and stood just behind the cameras, and I had to use the prompts. That was fairly terrifying.
Well, I think I'm right in saying the song Deep Purple by April Stevens and Nino Tempo, in one of the verses, she basically recites the words and he sings almost like an answer to her words.
An echo.
And but the other way round. And the reason was he couldn't remember the words in the recording, and he was so short-sighted he couldn't read the words on a piece of paper, so she had to basically say them to him.
Oh no, and they left it in.
Yeah. Yeah, because it actually sounded good.
That's fantastic.
There you go. There's a tip to put another 5 years on your career, Brian.
Yeah. Another little piece of...
All my musicians can't remember their names.
I spoke to you off air about the quality of music, and Arkansas Grass is another one to pop up, along with Ginger Man and Little Ray of Sunshine, songs you've been involved with and are now just part of Australian music folklore. Does it still make you a little bit chuffed and proud that stuff you produced all those years ago, still has an audience, but it still captures the attention of very young people who just love that sort of music?
That's right, and I did a gig last night, which is why I sound like this morning. But and the gig was predominantly 40 plus, but there was a whole bunch of sort of young kids spattered through the audience, and I was amazed that they would sing along with Little Ray of Sunshine and things like that. Ginger Man, they seemed to know all the words and got a real kick out of hearing it. And I started to think, well, maybe what they're saying is true, that young kids are going to a degree back to those eras because they like the music from that time. And I think that's a really lovely thing to happen for people like us.
I guess not only amongst the young folks in there, though, but you'd get up on stage at the piano bar Monday night, and you look down, you go, oh, there's John, and there's David, and there's Sally and Joan, who come to gigs 3 times a year. See a bit of that going on as well?
Oh, yeah, there's some lovely regulars who've been coming for years and years. And I think that's one of the tricks about our era is that the 60s and 70s were an amazing time for music, an amazing time for audiences. And our audiences seem to have just grown up and old with us. And you can't shut them home. They go out all the time. And they still rock. And it's a real shock to them when they realise that they're 65. They're about 25 when they're... And I think we're very fortunate that our audiences are still with us after all these years.
Yeah, we Neil and I had the privilege of going to see Russell Morris, who was in the very same joint that you were going to be in Monday night, probably 5 or 6 months ago, and we were worried about old blokes being out. I'm a lot older than Neil, of course, but you look around the room and it was the same. The people of our vintage, but really into the music and into what Russell had. The impact that Russell had on their life, I think, is the most important thing. That music is just part of who they are, and to see them come out and celebrate it, it's a great thing.
Oh yeah, it's lovely. It's good.
He performed The Real Thing that night, but it was just missing something. There was no one reading words off a tape box. It was just something lacking in the presentation.
It's like, I've said that to him many times.
You should just pop up.
I could just walk out with a tape box and read it. And I wouldn't charge too much.
No, neither should you, because it isn't necessarily the main part of the song, but clearly an important part of it. And I noticed also, Brian, you've got some gigs coming up in March with a fella called Glenn Shorrock, another friend of the show. You guys have bbeen performing together for a few years now.
50 years or something, yes. And he and I are best friends, as Russell and I are, and that's one of the great things about doing those shows is it's supported, if you like, by or driven by a very long friendship. So it's not something that's a surprise to us. It's like we've been doing it for a long time, and it enables us, because there's another best friend next to you, to have a go and have a bit of a spar and make jokes about each other and stuff. All mostly, incidentally, not rehearsed. They just happen on the night.
Yeah.
And in Glenn's case, depending upon what sort of a Shiraz is being served. but it's lovely fun to do that. And he and I do probably, probably 10 or 15 shows a year. And it's just a gorgeous thing to happen. I really love those.
The songwriting, Brian, you still pot around making songs, and do you still have these collaborations where maybe you might plant an idea with Russell or Glenn to try and create something new and wonderful, or is it more of a hobby now that you're flitting with songwriting?
No, it's very much on the floor. I mean, I consider myself first and foremost probably a songwriter, and then the other things in my life have all happened as a result of something I've written. And I'm about 2/3 of the way through a new album at the moment. I don't think any of us really stop. I know Russ does an album a year or a bit over, and it's just one of those things that you don't shut it down voluntarily. It just happens even if you don't want it to. You'll be driving along or sitting watching something, and all of a sudden the title will come popping up. And you've been doing it so long, you just go into the room and bang around the piano or something comes out. Not always great, but every now and again a good one comes. And I'm very lucky that part of me hasn't shut down. I still write all the time. I'm in the middle of 2 books, incidentally, so it's like a bit of a flood going on. I'm very happy.
Now, before we pump up the ticket sales, because we should let you go and get something down that throat of yours, if we could just take a slightly different tack for a minute. There was a chap who turned 80 last week. His name's Ian Meldrum. I suspect you may have caught up with him over the last week or so. We probably should pay tribute to him in terms of the contribution he's made to so many careers in the whole music industry.
Yeah, we should. He's a very comical character and he's outrageous and all that. And people tend to think of him in that light. But, when he was back in the 60s and 70s, he was a serious young insect. He was a very good producer and he was a good journalist. And as we all know, then he went on to be great on TV. So he's had a startling career. He knows everybody in the industry all around the world. And I don't think you'd overestimate the value of his contribution. And he's a lovely bloke too, even if he takes his pants.
I was just concerned he may pop up in Geelong on Monday night and drop them, but he's not planning to do that as far as you're aware.
No, he wouldn't get on stage.
Because he does mainly around piano players. That's the thing I was concerned about.
Yeah, I know, but we've got a heavy security system.
Don't rely on the piano bar security. We got in last time. Sadly, we can't make it this week because it's during the week and we've got other things on that. Otherwise, we'd be sitting there in the front row waving. But it's billed as the Brian Cadd duo, which I'm assuming means that you have someone there with you.
Yes, in fact, I don't know why it's a duo because I've got 2 people. so it's a trio.
Right.
But yes, and that's one of the other exciting things about these shows is that it's very intimate, it's very right there. It's not like you've got a drummer bashing away at 6 people singing and whatever. It's just a very, very simple version of everything. And it's a very wonderful way to perform. I just as an aside, last year or the year before I was in Woodstock in New York, and the guy that sang Walking in Memphis, I can remember.
Mark Conn?
Yes, Mark Conn. He was playing at a club, and I went along and saw him. It was just him with the grand piano, and you've never heard Walking in Memphis like that because it sounded like how he must have written it. It was just so poignant and so fabulous. And I think it gives artists a chance to just break it down into simple bits and just sing the songs as they wrote them. I love it. It's one of my favourite things to do.
Yeah, I saw you and Glenn together at a corporate gig going back into 1991 or 2, somewhere around about then when you were performing under the name Blazing Salads. And that's exactly how it came across. There was nowhere to hide, just you 2 blokes with your talent up on stage, and it was just magnificent.
That's such a great thrill to do that. It was very much not what I did. And then I got booked at that Capers that we were talking about before, that Capers nightclub in Melbourne, and they made you do like a week season, and you couldn't bring a whole band, you just didn't work with a whole band, and so I went straight in at the deep end.
Yeah,
I'd never done that sort of thing before. By the end of the second week, I was talking away. He couldn't shut me up. I was just chatting away and telling stories. And it really taught me that side of the performance thing, which I hadn't done much. I've always just been in a rock band or in front of a rock band. But this was such a different trip, and I really savoured those moments since then, and I really like doing those shows.
Yeah. Well, the next 3 nights are all going to be played in regional Victoria. and they are going to be, not as in, there's a show at Archie's Creek Pub tomorrow and at Bird's Basement tonight, but the ones for our regional listeners, the piano bar in each of Geelong, Ballarat and Bendigo on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. Doors open at 6 p.m. if you want to feed first. The show starts at 8. You can get tickets by going to briancadd.com.au. Seems like, briancadd.com. There's no .au on the end of it. Just choose the live button and you can buy tickets there. What a great night it promises to be. I'm only really sorry I can't be there.
Yeah, no, sorry you can't. But if you like, I can record it and send it to you.
If you wouldn't mind, that'd be good. You could call it Clean Skin too.
Thank you. Not so clean skin.
Brian Cadd, it's always an absolute honour and thrill to have you on our program. Thanks for taking some time out with your croaky voice this morning. I'm sorry we made you get out of bed and do that, but hopefully you'll get some people from the show having a listen to your program, to your performance on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Good on you, mate. Thank you very much for having me.
Good on you, Brian Cadd. Thank you very much.
Brian Cadd, the absolute legend of Australian music, and just an absolute thrill to have him on the program every time.
Yeah, he's a good lad, and as I said, I'm just fascinated that that music style that he delivered and performed back in there is just still very much part of the Australian music scene and resonates through many different age groups. It's fantastic.